Northern Ireland, a country that has a very turbulent past, and if it had the chance, I'm sure it would like to forget it. But what people don't realise is Northern Ireland, despite having come through 30 years of terror, violence, oppression, and many families torn apart, many still uncompensated, people don't realise that Northern Ireland is still very much divided: Protestant and Catholic, Unionist, Nationalist, Loyalist, Republican. However they want to label themselves, there is still a division, and that division can be seen in Stormont and Parliament buildings, with the parties and so forth. Now the question has to be asked: is Stormont effective? And is it worth voting in the upcoming May election? This is what I'm going to attempt to find out. Now, to give a brief history summary of Stormont Parliament buildings, the buildings themselves are used as the home of the Northern Ireland Assembly, which is the main legislative body of Northern Ireland to make laws and pass agreements that will affect the overall people of Northern Ireland. Now, the Assembly has been suspended on several occasions, the longest of which was from the 14th of October 2002 until the 7th of May 2007, just after the St Andrews Agreement was signed, which formed the basis for the type of Assembly that we have today. Of course, there have been numerous firsts in the... For instance, late 2014 to early 2015 saw the election of the first ever Nationalist Speaker of the House in Mitchell McLaughlin of Sinn Féin. It also, post St Andrews Agreement, saw the election of the first ever female First Minister in Arlene Foster of the DUP. It also saw the rise of female party leaders, in particular Margaret Ritchie of the SDLP. So Stormont in that way has been very progressive. However, the biggest problem that most seem to have with Stormont is that it is still home to petty squabbles over things like religion, background, and other issues which have formed a key part of very many people in Northern Ireland's backgrounds, and the feelings are expressed in such ways. Perhaps the most recent example of this is when Gregory Campbell for the DUP stood up to ask a question, and when he began his remarks he used fake Gaelic in an attempt to antagonise Sinn Féin, whose MLAs were known for starting off their remarks in Gaelic and then going on to give them in English.
Gregory Campbell.
Curry my yogurt, can Coca-Cola. Could I ask the Minister, she's outlined what she's talking about in terms of the Irish language strategy and Ulster Scots strategy. Would it not be more inclusive to have a minority languages strategy so that nobody feels left out?
Well, if it's anything to go by what you just did, would it be a strategy for pure ignorance? Pure ignorance. I think your conduct is not befitting members of this chamber, and it doesn't warrant an answer.
Of course, this caused absolute uprise from Sinn Féin's side, as well as some SDLP members and some Alliance members who are very sympathetic to both sides of this apparent religious section, and he was disciplined accordingly. But that just shows that even in 2015 there is still a lot of tension and a lot of pettiness within the Assembly. So just to give a bit of background on where I'm coming from with this investigation, I am Jason Black. I am from Warringstown, 19 years old. I have been raised in a Protestant household, therefore I would automatically have a unionist point of view. I am also in a loyalist flute band, but that does not affect my views in such a way that I am automatically going to be voting for a certain party or a certain way. I know my own mind and I know who I vote for. While I will always vote unionist because those are my beliefs, I can see both sides of the divide on both sides of the story, to be frank. So I thought it was important to get a younger person's view on this, so I spoke to my younger sister, who is 17 and therefore just shy of the voting age. So I thought it would be interesting to hear her thoughts as a person who isn't able to vote but will soon be voting, and if she is impressed with the MLA. So as a young person, Louise, do you or have you seen anything from Stormont that will convince you, as a young person who is on the cusp of being able to vote, have you seen anything from Stormont that will convince you to vote in the May elections?
Not really, no. I find that even with watching the news, I struggle with understanding and being quite interested in the politics community. I find that they're a lot old-fashioned in their ways. As you know, DUP is against the gay rights, which is very old-fashioned for what this world has come. We're 2016, everyone nowadays is totally for gay marriage, and I think that's where the DUP is let down. It's one of the things I know has been risen in the social media. Media, to me, would be more influential than anything. So to me, if our politician is on social media, to me it's more like as if they're going towards the younger community. But I find I don't understand the politicians, and I'm not interested in understanding them because they're a lot older and they don't cater to the younger community at all.
Yeah. So just as a follow-up to that, Louise, as a young person, would you find yourself influenced to vote for a certain party who represents a certain community from the community that you've grown up with? You know, I mean, you're my sister, and obviously we've been brought up on a certain side of the community, so therefore you would think that we would be defaulted to a certain type of party. So do you think that's true for everyone?
Well, no, not necessarily. Yes, I do believe that the way you're brought up is down to sometimes your beliefs, and sometimes people sway towards, some people actually encourage their own beliefs through their family. But I find that even with the way we're brought up, I'm not entirely sure. Like, to me, parties don't write down bullet point by bullet point what they do. To me, they're dilly-dallying a bit of both. I would like parties to say, this is what we stand for, this is what we don't, and bluntly put it the way a younger person understands. The way they talk about it, I find I struggle to get your head around the technical terms to use, or if they don't use, they use the likes of policies and laws not a young person would really get unless they were fully interested in. But I do find that the way you're brought up sometimes does influence the way you get on or the way you believe in certain parties.
As I said in my introduction, while Stormont has come through a very turbulent time and made very, very significant leaps in terms of their progress and their overall atmosphere up in Parliament buildings, there are still a lot of problems, in particular some parties' ideals and the way people perceive them out on the street. For instance, the DUP, formed of course by the late Reverend Dr. Ian Richard Kyle Paisley, one of the most predominant figures in Northern Ireland, not just politics, but Northern Ireland as a whole. They are seen as prehistoric dinosaurs, as they are opposed to homosexuality, homosexual marriage, as well as other things that people in today's 21st century society would be more susceptible to. On the other side of that spectrum, you have Sinn Féin, who many unionists and some nationalists cannot get over the fact that many of their members were allegedly involved in the Irish Republican Army back in the 70s and 80s, and the fact that they are sitting in the Assembly, quite frankly, is a disgrace in their eyes. If I had to give my own opinion on that fact, the Sinn Féin fact, that would sort of sway me as well, but again, that is how I have been brought up, and that is how I have been influenced, and maybe that is detrimental to moving forward as a society, but that is how I feel, and that is how I will keep voting, and that is probably how I will raise my kids as well. All in all, myself personally, I am going to vote the way I am going to vote. This investigation wouldn't really sway me. It was just an insight into seeing how young people would react to having to vote, would react to the daily goings on in Stormont, whether they think there's anything of substance happening, and also providing an insight into what exactly Northern Ireland politics are like for anyone who is not from here, anyone who would take an interest in Northern Ireland politics. I hope this would shed light on the subject. So I'll just say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.